Good morning. Good morning. Hi, Amy Spain Duncan. I am an alcoholic. I'm moving this because I'll knock all of this over. My sponsees call me Kramer from Seinfeld, so there it is. So I got up during the meeting to look for this. This is my big book, and I accosted these folks. Where's my big book? Who's got my big book? And then I remembered that I put it up here for safekeeping. So my apologies. And I just want to kind of, lower your expectations. This is what you're dealing with. I need us to be on the same page there for that. My sobriety date is March 6th of 2010. I have a home group. They know I'm a member, and I do service within that group. Yeah, they know when I show up. They're not surprised when I say, I'm a home group member. Who are you? Right? No, I'm there, and I'm committed. My home group raised me, and I love that you guys announced your home groups, and I hope your home group is the greatest group in the world for you. Yeah, because we need that, because my sponsor can only do so much. God bless her. Everyone say a prayer. I also say that I am sponsored by a woman who's painfully aware that she's my sponsor. So, because I didn't get here and get okay. I got here and got worse. And thank you to our other speakers. These are my friends. These are family to me. These are, they're my anchor. They're the place where the main thing can be the main thing and nothing else matters much, right? And that's what I love about Alcoholics Anonymous. It holds me when the world's spinning so fast. I'm sure I'm going to fly off. And I need to be here. My feet are trained to come sit with you and just be okay for 1 hour. And that's the way it's always been. And Gemma, I got to meet Gemma. Gemma's kind of legendary, so I'd heard about her, but I'd never actually seen her. And you were everything they say. And it was wonderful, and thank you for that. So, you've got smart folks like Gemma and John who were like, ooh, this isn't going well, in adolescence, and came on in. No, I'm no quitter. I'm going to figure this out, I'm going to figure this out. And that's the great obsession of every abnormal drinker, right? To somehow control and enjoy my drinking. And I will follow the pursuit of this delusion to the gates of insanity or death. And that's where I went. I rode it till the wheels fall off. Drugged by alcoholism, beaten into a state of reasonableness. And that's why I love our big book, and I love the language, because it spoke to me, because that was my condition. I told you all a little bit yesterday, and John and I were doing 8 and 9. I got sober in a homeless shelter, and there was a guy, a doctor, a physician, who was sober many, many years, well known throughout the nation for his studies in alcoholism and addictionology and that kind of thing. And this sweet man would come to a homeless shelter. He didn't have to do that. But he was a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. So he would come to a homeless shelter once a week, and he'd do a big book literature study. And he would bring his big book, and we would read, and he would break it down, and he would talk to us about it. And at the end of his class, every time, he would raise up his big book, and he'd say, my wish for you is that you've been badly mangled, beaten into a state of reasonableness. And I would think, you old man, thought you all were supposed to be nice, love and tolerance and all that jazz, But the truth is, and until an alcoholic reaches that state, they're not able to receive information. And that's what he wanted. He wanted us broke down to the point that we could receive what my friend Harold calls the best news ever. And that didn't happen to me until March 6th of 2010. And so my story involves a lot of pain, and mine, self-imposed crisis, right? But the warped lives of blameless children. Add to this list Infinium. That's my story. So when I got here, I was full of this guilt and this shame and this remorse, right? Harold talked about the delusion of unworthiness, the delusion of separateness. These are the places where I operated. I'm a ferret and you're a squirrel, right? And I feel that. And alcohol fixed that. It didn't make me a squirrel. I didn't care. Man, Gemma, that was perfect. From the mouths of babes, right? That 5-year-old that can just break down everything we're feeling in that simple way. And I love those connections and those realizations that we have. So I wasn't like born a prostitute. I was just, I was like a regular baby, you know? I cried a lot. I was irritable and restless from the beginning, though. I earned the nickname Screaming Mimi. That's what my uncle used to call me when I was little, because well, obviously me. But my grandmother, we called Mimi, and he would call me Screaming Mimi, because if I wasn't with her, I was irritable, restless, and discontent. She was my safe place, and you couldn't take me from her, and I didn't want to be away from her. And with her, everything was fine. I had that nickname because my mom would tell stories about sitting beside my crib at night, both of us crying. You know, she's like, please stop crying. Like, I wasn't happy about being here. I knew, like, didn't, you know, in infancy. I'm this complainer, I'm this whiner, I'm this, I want to be somewhere else. And that's how I arrived, you know, here on this planet, on this earthly plane. I was in love with my daddy. Man, I thought I had the coolest, smartest, funniest, most handsome dad in the world, right? I'm a daddy's girl. And he thought the same of me. I was the apple of his eye. And me and my dad, we did everything together. And my dad suffered alcoholism. And eventually that alcoholism destroyed the family, and my mom divorced my father. And I was 7 years old, and my daddy's gone, and he's gone because that thing, it gets a hold of him. It gets a hold of him, and it takes him to places he never meant to end up. And it separates him from me and my sister. And the book calls it the annihilation of all things worthwhile. But he's on his journey, and he's going to experience that. And I'm at home with my mom and my sister and this new stepdad, and I'm not happy because I don't like the way things have played out. You know, I'm already 8 years old. I could have used a drink. Like, things aren't going my way, you know? And my poor mom, you know, my first resentment was against my mother because in my mind she ran my dad off, and I loved the way Diane tells the story of the Al-Anon because she protected me from that. But in her protection of me from the things that my dad was doing and the way the marriage was going, I was clueless, and I thought she ran him off. You know, my dad was a good time Charlie. She would put me in the car at 1 or 2 in the morning in the back of the station wagon, and we'd go driving around looking for my dad's motorcycle. She probably needed some Al-Anon. It's 1 in the morning, you got 2 kids in the back, you know, looking for him. She's on the hunt. She's a detective. She's on the hunt. And she would say to me, Amy, look in that parking lot and see if you see your dad's motorcycle. And I would look, and the marquee would say Kitten House. And I would think, why is she so mad? Who doesn't like kittens? Like, maybe he'll bring a kitten home. Did you ever think about that, Mom? That'd be good, you know. But I don't know what's going on, so I'm mad at her, you know. I'm mad at her, and I don't like the stepdad, and my sister seemed to acclimate fine to that family. Everybody went on like nothing was wrong. And something was wrong, my dad was gone. And how do we act like nothing's wrong? You know, and I'm confused. And when I'm 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, they say, Amy, you're just like your daddy, you're so smart, you're quick-witted, you're good at math. But years later, once the drink's introduced, they say you're just like your dad, and they mean something different. I'm the only member of my family, other than my father, that ever found the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. People drink in my family. They go to work, they retire, they have jobs, they pay their bills, they raise their children. They don't drink to the extent that I drink. You know, the same thing doesn't happen in them. They can say, it's getting late, I should go. I've never been able to say that. It's weird to me that they do that. But I'm an alcoholic as outlined in the doctor's opinion of our literature. I have a physical allergy and a mental obsession. And what that means is I'm always thinking about a drink. And once I take a drink, I don't know where I'm going to stop, when I'm going to stop, or what that's going to look like when it finally crashes down. I have no quitter when it comes to booze, And that's my problem. I drink alcoholically from the beginning. I didn't have a honeymoon period. I didn't cross an invisible line. The moment I was introduced to alcohol, like so many of our speakers have said this weekend, I can breathe. And I'm going to do this as often and as much and everywhere I can. This is it. I have found the solution, right? To the irritable, restless, and discontent, to the separation, to the problems. This fixes everything. This is amazing. I can't wait. I'm excited about it. So I invite people to drink with me. You should drink this. You can't believe what this does to you, right? But it didn't do that to them, People were commenting on my drinking immediately. Immediately, I'm doing tragic and absurd things. Immediately. My mom sent me to an all-girl parochial school she thought it would slow me down. She tried. She did. But I remember that when I got there, those girls said, we don't drink and we don't smoke and we don't kiss boys. And I said, well, neither do I, because that'd be weird. Who does that? I did all of those things. I kissed all the boys. But I remember this is the first time looking back, right? So my friend Peter says we live life forward, we understand it backwards. These aren't truths I realized as they were happening. This is what I've learned since I got here with you. But when I look back, this invitation in step one to explore my relationship with alcohol. When did I become the chameleon? When did I become the liar? When did all this? And I remember that was the first time that I lied to you purposely and directly about me. I'm sorry, I don't want you to know about my drinking. I don't want you to know about my behaviors when I drink. I know that what I'm doing is not going to be acceptable to you, and I need to play that close to the vest. And that's what I do, right? So I'm in this place of secrecy and pretending to be something I'm not, and the whole time, just the unworthiness, like, oh man, when you find out who I really am, boy, it's going to be bad. You'll be surprised. And my dad said I was always looking for a place where my unacceptable behaviors would be acceptable. I ended up changing high schools 4 times. We never moved. My stepfather wasn't in the military, nothing like that. No. I can't get along with you. I can't get along with you. I don't fit social norms, and I don't know if you know a lot about women, but they don't like you to sleep with their boyfriends. They get upset, really, really upset. They want to fight you. I mean, it's crazy. And I'm like, look, lady, I don't even know his name, Not that serious, but they're... Yeah, so I'm that girl. I'm that girl. No moral compass. There's no moral compass. I do what I want when I want, and I have no regard for how it affects other people. None. I am a tornado, and that's how I run, and it's all about making me feel different. I just want to feel different, right? I love that. Gemma said last night, you don't want to drink, you just want to feel better. And that's the deal. I just want to feel better, and the drink's the only way I know to do that. And so I'm going to drink, and when I drink, I don't know what's going to happen. I ended up graduating barely. John talked about that. So I showed up for graduation rehearsal because they made an announcement, and the principal was like, "What are you doing here?" I was like, well, rehearsal. And he said, "Yeah, you're not graduating." And I was like, "What?" And apparently in Kentucky, they have this law about number of days attendance. That wasn't fair. I felt like if I passed your class and I didn't even have to be here, perhaps I should get a special diploma. Maybe you could put a little gold star or an extra award because I didn't even have to be here, and I got A's and B's in your classes. So, but I could do that. I have this book, so I'm able to learn, and I'm a really good test taker. Actually, I can just kind of wing it, and figure it out. It makes sense. My mom, who's always been my biggest advocate, my enabler, who I love. Thank God for her. Thank God. I know we talk about enabling, and it's a bad thing, and you can't do it. But I don't know if I would have lived through it if she didn't continually love me and support me and clean up messes. It wasn't healthy for her, but worked for me for a while. But she did whatever she did, and we don't ask questions. My mom's pretty gangster. We don't talk about it. I don't know what happened, but I graduated, okay? I know that I said, Mom, what did, she wouldn't talk about it. What'd you do? She's like, don't worry about it. How'd you pull that off? We're not talking about it. But one day we're driving by a neighborhood and we're passing, and I'll never forget the name of the street is Inverness. And I looked up, I said, that's a neat name. She goes, that's where your English teacher lives. Why do you know that, Mom? Anyway, I get it honest. So I end up graduating, and I'm in full-blown alcoholism. I'm 18 years old, and I put something in my body every day to feel different than I do, and I can't stop doing it. And it's the only time the noise stops. Bill talks about on page 6, 2 bottles of gin and oblivion. And that's the goal. That's where I'm headed. That's where I need to be. I can't stand me, and I can't stand you, and my world's falling apart, and it doesn't look like it's going to get any better. At 18 years old, people are excited about their future, and they're planning for colleges, and they're doing all this, and I just want to get inside a bottle and lay down. It's the only place I want to be, and I don't know what to do besides that. And I end up pregnant. And I don't have, I'm so selfish. I'm so self-centered. I think this baby's gonna fix me, right? And I can't live without this baby. Once I hear that heartbeat and I see that ultrasound, I gotta have this. And I'm not thinking about what I could do for a baby, because I don't think about what I can do for you. I look at the whole world to see what it can do for me. And that includes this little girl. So I bring her into this world, and I love her. We love our babies. There's nobody that's carried a child that doesn't love that child with every part of their being. But alcoholism. And I dragged this kid with me. And my mom was there, and she intervened, and she was, that safety net for that little girl, so that she had a place where she was safe. Like I screamed for my Mimi, right? My little girl, she screamed for her Gam. Gammy was everything. And then I was jealous because my mom was better at it than me, and she loved her better than me, and they would all be better off without me. The self-loathing, the self-obsession, the self. And I can't see it, and I don't know it, and I'm so far from connecting the dots. See, I don't think alcohol's my problem. You're my problem. They're my problem. She's my problem. Mom's my problem. Dad's my problem. Those girls are my problem. I got a lot of problems, right? And none of them have to do with me in this bottle. They're the reason. They're the solution to the problem. I'm so maladjusted to life, man. I got a job at a bar. We should all work at a bar. If you didn't work at a bar too late, don't go do it. But if you did, right? It's like you're at Willy Wonka's, like everything you want is there, and love it. And I'm a cocktail waitress, and this is the first time. I was 19. We used to be able to have fake IDs and stuff back in the good old days. I was telling a guy outside, we used to smoke at the podium. There'd be an ashtray there, and we'd be smoking, making fake IDs. We get away with anything. And I was 19 years old, and I'm a cocktail waitress at Jim Porter's Emporium, Good Time Emporium. It was like Willy Wonka. There were 4 bars in there, and live music, and smoke, and booze, and sex, and fights, and everything I love, right there in one place. It was like Disneyland. And I was 19 and cute and young and all that. And this is the first time I noticed that that a man would pay my bills. That seemed like good information right there. Be beneficial. It could be symbiotic in some way. And I started to do that, I started to get my bills paid and trips paid, but I'm a party girl, and I started dating the bouncer because I like to fight and he likes to fight, and I don't mean fight. I don't like a verbal fight. I just want to punch you in the face. We ain't got to talk about it. Pop. I'm not like a screamer or anything. Like I'll sneak it right in the throat. Bam. I'm violent. I'm aggressive. And so we'd get drunk and we'd beat each other up. And I do want to say in 2010, when I did that first Honest Fist tap, I had him on there, man. This guy was abusive, dude. And my sponsor was like, you said you were violent and aggressive and, dangerously antisocial when you were drinking. Was this guy ever defending himself? And I listen. I know battered woman syndrome, and I know those situations are severe. It's just not my story. I gave as good as I got, and probably I started it, because I'm violent. And I always say, I'm going to climb you like a spider monkey, and I'm carrying a knife. So you got one option, and it's to get me off of you, and that's my truth. It's just who I am. I got pregnant again. I'm pregnant again. And this guy, he didn't want a baby, and he takes off, thank God, because we probably would have killed each other at some point. I mean, there were hospitalizations and car wrecks and, some really intense violence, not a little violence, broken bones, bloody noses, lost teeth, black eyes, that kind of violence, because that's where I kind of operate in this animalistic insanity. And I'm real comfortable there. Like, who gets comfortable in that kind of situation? I do. I can't, because it seemed to match the thing I believed about me, that broken place. My friend Mari G, if you've never heard Mari, look her up. She's one of my favorite speakers. And early on, I got to look to identify, right? I'm trying to not see the differences, but see the similarities. So I'm listening to speakers, and I got that this weekend, even with Diane's. Like, I can identify. But early in my recovery, I was struggling to identify. I was struggling to read this literature. I was struggling to make sense. And I was at a conference in Nashville, and Mari G said, I always knew something was wrong with me, because people always said, something's wrong with you. And I was like, bingo, me too, yes. And I identified, but that was my story. So he takes off, and I've decided, I'm a thinker. Any other drunks, real big thinkers, I think I'm going to make a plan. The book even speaks to our little plans and designs. Because I'm going to figure a way out of this. I need a plan. I need to move from here. I got to strategically plan where this plane's going to wreck next, And I decide what I need as a husband. You got to have one of those. And so I'm going to pick one. I'm not really interested in one, but it seems appropriate. Because I'm a single mom with 2 little girls, and people who are married, they look happy. Maybe I need to get one of those. But I'm kind of lazy, and the pool, the selection pool in the company I keep is shallow. But I found a guy that also was mad at the bouncer. Like, he didn't like him either. And I thought, we both don't like him. I think we can build from here. It just happened to be the bouncer's little brother. Oh, stop it. Look, I know I'm way up north, but down south, that's not a big deal. He wasn't my brother. Right? He's his brother. Real classy operation we got going, isn't it? My sponsor says when I get invited to these things, it's to make all of you feel better about yourselves. So we're only a few minutes in. I hope you're feeling good, right? Like, well, could have been worse. God bless it. But he and I, this is the thing. This kid, this guy, this young man, we were in our early 20s. He wanted a family. His solution to what was wrong with him was he needed to get a wife and he needed to have some kids and then he'd be okay. And see, I thought the same thing. Hey, bud, I need to get a husband and I've already got these kids and we could get it together and we'll be okay. And so we set off, and as Led Zeppelin played in the chapel and we lit the unit, I was like a Wiccan. It was crazy. Anyway, my poor mother just sitting like, oh, Jesus. But I looked at him under my big veil. I mean, if you saw pictures of this wedding, it's a riot. You know, it was the early 90s. What can I say? And I'm sweating because I was so. Bud Ice had just come out with this awful beer, and we drank a case of it. I drank a case of it. I don't know what he was drinking. I drank a case of it, and so I'm sweating at the wedding, right? Because the deal was, and if you have to say to your groomsmen or bride, hey, please don't drink the day of the wedding, you know, that's a red flag. And the wedding was at 4:00 in the afternoon, so it was a long day, you know. But I'm going to keep my promise. But I'm sweating, and Led Zeppelin's playing in the chat where I'm lighting the unity candle, and I'm hungover. And I look up at him, and I say, I need a beer. And he said, I know. But we didn't know. We didn't know what that meant. That I couldn't get through my wedding day. That I'm, you know, my family's there, and the girls are the flowers, and these beautiful dress, and all these things, and all I can do is know that I need a beer. And I'm 24 years old. That's how this thing's got a hold of me. A year into that marriage, he says, I'm taking the kids and I'm leaving you. You know, because I bust the dishes in the house. I punch people in the face. I blow out the windows of the car. You know, I'm volatile and I'm rageful and I'm insane. We on page 52 of our literature talks about the bedevilments, and I can go through there and go check, 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 right? Personal relationships, unemployable, unable to be any use, but the one that always got me, little control of my emotional nature. I'm either real sad, big feelings, big feelings. I love you both. Real happy. And Mike and Diane are leaving. Tell everyone, thank you, Diane. Thank you, Michael. It blows me away that good and kind people like that consider me friend and would have meals with me and travel with me and laugh with me. A wretch like me. And this program restores us, renews us, and it's not about becoming something different. It's about unbecoming all the things you were never meant to be. And I'm unbecoming all these things I'm telling you about through this program, through steps, through work with other women, through listening to speakers who open up a part of me and go, ooh, wow, I hadn't thought of that, right? And how God brings us this uncover, discover, discard process that we get to be in. It's amazing and it's joyful. But back to the sad part. It was awful. It was awful. He's going to leave me. Frothy emotional appeal seldom suffices, but this time it did. I was 25 years old, and I knew something was wrong. The gig was up. I had the house. I had the picket fence. We had a creek in the backyard. It was lovely. I had the husband. I had the kids. Why isn't this working? Why am I not okay? What's going on, right? And so I start to connect the dots. My daddy got sober on my 18th birthday. That was his sobriety day. It was my 18th birthday. And the story goes that he called me on at my 18th birthday, and I said, Dad, you're out there again, aren't you? Because Dad had come to visit you and had brief periods of sobriety. I said, you're back out there, aren't you? And Dad said, yeah, Amy, and it's worse than ever. I love my daddy. And I said, Dad, if you'll take care of yourself, just a couple years, just give me a couple years, Dad, and I'll get an apartment, and I'll take care of you. You can come live with me and I'll take care of you, Daddy. And he said that night, the thought that his daughter, who he adored, would have to take care of him, drove him to his knees. And on his knees in my grandmother's living room, he said, God help me. And my dad was sober ever since, right? Yeah. I mean, he jumped all the way into Alcoholics Anonymous, and we hear that all the time, and we've heard it this weekend. He came all the way in, he sat all the way down, and he stayed, and he fell in love with you. So my dad was in love with you guys, and I knew something was different in my dad's life because he had the same phone number and an address, and those were new things for Dad. So I knew things were getting better, you know. And I called him up, and I said, Dad, I think I got what you got. And my dad took me to my first Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. And I fell in love with Alcoholics Anonymous. I love stories. I love laughter. I love the music and the noise, the hugs. You know, here, you didn't ask me, why would you do that? You said, of course you did that. That's what I would have done. You know, I found the ferrets. I found all the ferrets. Right here we all are. And I identified it, and I felt connected, and I like coffee, and you smell good, and there was usually cake or cookies or something. What's not to like? And I started going to Alcoholics Anonymous, and I quit drinking, and at 25, I just quit drinking. There were no DTs, there were no shakes, there was no racing thoughts. I just quit drinking, but I had fellowship sobriety. I didn't read the book. I didn't work the steps. I went to a lot of meetings. We were talking about this weekend, and those meetings held me, and I was able to quit, but I hadn't really done the work inside. I just quit drinking, you know, and I hung out with you a lot, and it got better. He and I ended up having 2 more kids, and if you're not from Kentucky, I'm going to break that down for you. The bouncer's kid, I married her uncle, so she has an Uncle Daddy. He and I have 2 more children, so she has a sister cousin and a brother cousin. Sit with it. Just sit with it. Here's another fun fact. That is not the most embarrassing thing I've ever done. It's just the one I'll tell you from the podium. So, but wait, there's more. Yeah, just the alcoholic life seems the only normal one. Like if you had come up and been like, don't you think that's bizarro? You know, I'd be like, what, you don't believe in love? 2 people can't love each other. You can't decide who you love. You know, you fucking idiot. Jesus. Crazy. But he got better, and we had 2 more kids. And man, listen, the guilt, shame, and remorse that I carried into Alcoholics Anonymous with me of dragging those 2 little girls. You know, my girls, the damage of having a volatile, insane, drunken mother was showing up in their 4- and 5-year-old little faces, and in their nervous twitches, and in their behaviors, and the weight of that. And so I set out to make up for it, man, to be the best mom in the world. And I was the PTA mom, and I was the soccer mom, and I was the vacation Bible school mom, and I was the stay-at-home mom, and I was in the car pickup line mom, and I read stories, and I gave baths, and I loved, and I loved, and I loved. And these kids were everything. They were everything. They were everything. And I didn't have time for Alcoholics Anonymous because I forgot that moms get drunk too. And who's going to say, you know, if you said, Amy, you know, you ain't at the meetings. I'll be like, I got these 4 kids to take care of. They're the most important thing. I got sober to be a mom. Well, you want me to leave them at home? I got to be a mom. 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 Couldn't argue with me. We got a bigger house and we moved, and there were the meetings weren't the same. If you've ever moved, nobody does AA like you're used to AA, so you got to get over there and fix that real quick. And I didn't have time to fix their AA because I was being a mom, so I just quit going to AA. I'm an alcoholic. I'm a garden variety drunk. The real alcoholic is described in this literature. And untreated, my alcoholism will treat me. And it didn't, you know, it starts out slow, right? This time I won't get burnt, and here's how, right? I'm going to take a trip. I'm not going to take a trip. I'm going to drink brown liquor. I'm going to drink clear liquor, you know, all the ways I'm going to control and enjoy, and it'll never get that bad again. But I'm powerless, and I don't know that. This is unmanageable, and I haven't reconciled that with myself, right? And so over any considerable period, things get worse, never better, and they did. And he and I ended up divorced. And this is where the world opens up and swallows me whole. Because I'm on my own. For he has the kids for 2 weeks. I got nothing to do for 2 weeks. All right, and I'm single. And I'm still a party girl. Still got hot pants. There's men to see. Got to get out there. They've been waiting on me. I've been married too long. And I started dating this guy, and he was bigger than life, and I could hear his Harley coming 5 miles out. And my whole body would shake, man. He had my number. I had never felt that way about a guy before, and this guy had my number. He was big and bad. My sister says I like him big and dumb. And we were just ripping and running and doing a lot of illegal activities, So many, in fact, that the federal marshals got really interested in where he was. And came and picked him up. And he's in Branchville Penitentiary, where he'll die. He's never getting out of there. He's making hooch in his cell, We don't always change. We don't always get the opportunity. But when they took him away, things got real bleak and dark for me, and I ended up on the streets. And this is the part where I don't want to die. I'm at the jumping off point. Right, where I do want to die. I'm at the jumping off point. I can't imagine my life with or without. I go into a darkness, I go into a spiral, and I'm going to lay there for 4 years. For 4 years, I'm going to live on the streets. I'm going to do whatever I have to do to get one more. And if you get between me and what I want, you're in a dangerous place. Because I'm animalistic and I'm insane and I don't care who I hurt. I don't like me and I can't stand you. And the haunting noise of those beautiful children has to be drowned out. It has to go away. In 2007, I started bouncing in and out of the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. And you were so kind. And I didn't look like I did when I was 25. I had taken a few hits to the head. I was grossly underweight. I was missing teeth. I twitched. I had a little thing. That was exciting for people. I mean, a mess, hot mess. But like I said, the old timers, they let me sit by them. Don't disturb the meeting and you can stay. And you never waved your finger at me or yelled at me or told me what I was doing wrong. You just said, keep coming back. Have you eaten today, Amy? Did you get a cup of coffee? And the love and tolerance. If I had been in trouble, I would have never come back here. See, I'm a little girl that's been in trouble since I was 7 years old. I got the ADHD. I'm a Gen Xer. Nobody cared. They didn't give you a fidget spinner. There were no programs for me. Sit still. What's wrong with you? And punishment is all punitive. Where's your homework? I don't know. Why'd you forget? I don't know. I mean, you're the adult. I don't know. Why does my brain work like this, But I always, had to sit by the teacher or the front of the bus or outside the classroom, I'm a behavior. So I've been in trouble everywhere I went. All my life I was in trouble. I was being called to the principal's office, called to the HR. Boy, HR, they know me in HR. Even sober, I hope I can get to some of that, but I got to make friends with HR immediately at a job, give me a little heads up, it's going down today, you need those guys on your side. But in Alcoholics Anonymous, I was never in trouble. And if I had been in trouble, I probably wouldn't come back. Thank you. Thanks for clapping every time I got a white chip. Even if it was the second one that day, you're like, keep coming back, sweetheart. You're going to make it. And I bounced in and out of Alcoholics Anonymous for 3 years. And I couldn't stop. And they would say, don't drink and go to meetings. And I'd say, it's that first part that I'm struggling with. I can come to your meetings. It's that don't drink. I had passed beyond human aid. I no more had the choice of whether to drink or whether to take a breath. I was going to do it. The pain would get great enough. Not drinking just felt impossible. I don't think I I never got a 30-day chip in that time period. I couldn't make it a week. And I would lock myself up. I would go to my mom's or go to my sister's where there was no alcohol, there was no other substances, and I'm going to stay here. And I would sit there and I would shake and I would take baths and I would try to eat and I'd toss and turn on their couches. And inevitably, a few days later at, 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, I would slide out and they'd wake up and I'd be gone again. That really hurt my kids because when I'd show up, they thought I was there, and I'd tell them I'm going to stay here, and I'm going to do better, and it's going to be okay again. But man, that beast, that monster that would wake me up at 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'd say, just leave and come back. Just slide out while they're sleeping and get what you need and sneak back in, but I couldn't make it back in. And then so I would be gone in the wind into the darkness. March 6, 2010, my dad picked me up off a street corner. He took me to a homeless shelter. He said, Amy, please go in there and see if those women can help you. You're going to die. And something happened. That's my favorite part of Alcoholics Anonymous. Something happened. See, I didn't want to be any more sober that day or desperate for sobriety than I was any of the other days before. March 6th was a Saturday. I'm a prostitute. Those are great hours, And the 6th, first of the month, if you know, you know. I'm saying, I ain't coming indoors. Catch me on the 19th on a Tuesday, But it's a Saturday, prime hours on the 6th. But something happened. I got a friend in Florida that says my sobriety date is the date that desperation and grace collide. Because God's grace is always there waiting on me. And there was something about the way my dad looked at me. And I went. And I got inside that homeless shelter. It's a detox, and it's non-medical, man. If you flop on the floor like a fish, we'll call 911, but that's it. You're not getting a Tylenol, an ibuprofen, none of that. We're just gonna rock this out with some generalized supervision by non-medical staff. And that's where I was. This was before universal health care and all that. If you didn't have a job, you didn't have insurance, you didn't have choices. And we called it the last house on the block. And it was a homeless shelter for women. And in that shelter, they had a recovery program, and they were using Joe and Charlie recovery dynamics. And if you'd been there a while, it's just like an AA, right? So the older sisters would give the newer sisters the rules, and we all cooked together and we cleaned together, and it was a community of women. And in that community of women, I began to heal, and I got a sponsor, and I started going through the steps. My sponsor I don't think she liked me. It's not a requirement. But she was only 3 years sober, man, and I could hear her. She hadn't evolved so much, right? She hadn't gotten she still had a little, grime on her, little jagged edges. And I could hear that. That's because she spoke my language. She could still reach the newcomer. She had, Shoemaker talks about going into the caverns of the building so far in that you were just communing with God all the time. But you get so far away, you can no longer hear the cries of the man at the door. And she wasn't that sober yet. Thank God. She was at the door. And she took my hand and she put it on that knob, man. I called her up one time whining. Wah, because that's what we do. I'm sorry if you're new, that's what you do. That's what it sounds like. That's wah. Big problems, me, wah. And that's what I did. I called her out, big problems, wah, me. And she said, the only people we're going to feel sorry for is anybody that met you. She hung up on me. That was the end of the conversation. I was like, I'm looking for love and tolerance. Wait a minute, are you allowed to do that? I got the rule book. But I could hear her, man, and I would call her up and I'd say, some of the women, their sponsors pick them up and take them to meetings. Do you ever do anything like that? She said, did I take you to the liquor store? She said, your recovery is your responsibility. She was right. My recovery is my responsibility. And she was right. I always got where I needed to get what I needed to have. And if I take one half the zeal, I went about getting my next drink. And I apply it to my recovery. And that's what she was teaching me, and that's what she was guiding me to do. And I did it, and we went through these steps. I told you about that that fifth step. There was so much on my fifth step. I did not have a pink cloud after my fifth step. I did not feel like I was walking on the broad highway hand in hand with my Creator. I looked at my fifth step and was like, we're in trouble. All of it was me. all of it. Every part, that was all me. Ooh, this is alarming. Not sure what to do next here with these new problems identified. But the book told me what to do next. And in our original manuscript, it says, I humbly on my knees. And when the way the fifth step affected me, there was nowhere to go but on my knees. There was nowhere else to go. And like John, my prayer was not like, I'm now ready for you to have all of me, the good and the bad. Please remove from me. It was you fix this. You fix this. You fix this. Or you take the breath out of my body right now. Don't you dare let somebody like me exist. How dare you? You fix this. You fix this. You're the only one who can. I know that. I know I can't. I know my mom can't. And I know those kids can't. I know there's not a power in the world that can fix what I just saw on 5. So you better do it, buddy. And then God came, and I had a spiritual experience. And it wasn't a cool breeze that blew off the mountaintop. I was terrified. This is whoa. Am I having a flashback? And did somebody drop some acid in my drink? But no longer did I doubt the presence of a loving spirit that comes when we desperately need it and will sit with us and hold us and rock us and begin to change us. Right? If I'm willing to do his work well. And that was the deal. That was the accord. And I told you a little bit about my step 9 stuff yesterday, and I still do the same things today to stay sober that I did to get sober, because this deal's important to me, and my very life depends on it, and I'm not confused today. I am not confused one bit about my diagnosis and the solution for that diagnosis. I'm not confused. And so I stay committed to this deal, foot to pavement. So I wasn't the best sponsor in the beginning because, I had that little twitchy thing. I was still real angry and rageful. And violence is always an option. It's never off the table when you're talking to me. Like, it's always on the table. And usually it's my go-to. So I had to kind of start doing it. Bob Darrell talks about my character defects and shortcomings because it's wrath. It's wrath, rage, and it's this wrath, and it's this pride, and it's this ego, and it's this sloth, and it's this jealousy, and it's all these things. My friend Pearl says they're more than my character defects. They are my character defenders. And I pull them up when I'm frightened, and I reach back and grab it when I'm scared. And you told me in 6 and 7 to leave those things, and Bob Darrell does a great story about, well, I'm not going to carry it here, but I'll just set it over here. Just in case I need to get it real quick. They don't go away. I'm not white. We are not saints. I keep it nearby, just in case this doesn't work out, just in case that loving and merciful God and this place of joy and serenity, just in case you made it up and it's not true, just in case you sold me on some rainbow and unicorn BS. And the reality of life is going to hit me in the face, and I'm going to need these things, so I can't set them down yet. And that's how I watched through my first years of sobriety. I remember saying to my friend Tim H., he's in my home group, and he's about 7 foot tall. I'm like, look, old man, you better not be lying to me, because I'm all in on this deal. He's like, we're not lying to you, Amy. Put a chair away, move a chair. That's my job at my home group. I'm the chair mover. It's a very important job. Move a muscle, change a thought. There's something about helping to set up a meeting to welcome us all in, or to put away a meeting after it's gone. There's something about the action of service, right? That makes my life seem okay, and my problems seem smaller, and things seem more doable when I keep the main thing the main thing. I had a relationship today with four of my children. It was not easy. Women who I love our book says that men and women who clamor, for their families back, and they're on the wrong track. And I tell women all the time, they're like, I want my kids back. I'm like, yeah. They're kind of a scam, really. They're going to hurt your feelings a lot, And we don't want to make those sweet promises and pull the structure down on their head one more time. So walk slowly into that. Let God have that. Let God deal with that. I didn't come back to young kids that were like mommy's home. I came back to teenagers that were like, and they were hurt, and they got to be. And I had to quit making it about me. And that was hard. And I parented from guilt, and I moved from fear. And so what that looks like is insanity, in sobriety. And sobriety, right? But I'm persisting, and I'm believing you, and I'm doing the things, and I'm saying the prayers, and slowly and quickly things start to change in my life, little by little. I told you about cussing out my boss and quitting my job. I told you about, kicking in my neighbor's door. I haven't mentioned the many times I was violent with my husband because I'm violent and when rageful, and I'm out of control, and I'm not always well. And I'm doing those things sober, but I'll tell you this. I started to do them less. There was more time in between them. And they started to be less severe when they occurred. But every time I would mess up, I would say, this thing's not working. I'm never going to get it. What's wrong with me, And old timers would just laugh. You're doing great. You're doing great. You're doing awesome. Keep going. Move those chairs back there. You're doing awesome. I say I'm not nice, but I'm nicer, right? My dad always said the only person you can compare yourself to in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous is the person you were the day before your sobriety date. And if you're better than that individual, this thing's working. And that's my story. I've had a lot of ups and downs. I went back to school. I got a bachelor's degree. That was really cool. I'm like Harold. I'm like, oh God. I felt like the scarecrow, right? In Wizard of Oz, like, all men of intelligence have a degree. Let's put that on the wall. Now I'm smart too, So I got a degree, and I have had many opportunities in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I got promoted at work. I've been a corporate nurse. I've made a lot of money. It was amazing. And then I got surprise fired one day because I think they realized I was grossly overpaid. And so then I'm unemployed once again. At I was 13 years sober then. And my friend Rachel, my friend Michelle, we had these wild dreams because you can do anything you want in Alcoholics Anonymous. And we started our own company, and we were just kind of making it up. People are like, what are you doing? We're like, we don't know. I have no idea. We all go there. We all go there every day. They say showing up's half the battle, so we just keep showing up. We don't know what's going to happen, but we're having fun, and it allows us to do the things we want and be present in the lives of our families and children, and that's what I get to do today. I get to do this thing, and I think John talked about how long do I have to go until you want to. When things are good, I come to the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. When things are bad, I show up in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. I have trained feet. My feet are trained to be here with you, greet you at the door, and put away a chair at the end of the meeting. And it's the best life I've ever lived. And it's not just for me, it's for anybody, and I hope you all feel a little better about yourselves. That's it.